On the first day of school, the dean smashed a bird's egg on the ground and told the freshmen, "That's how this world works. Either compete or die, because there will always be other birds trying to take over its nest." Then he knocked over the transcripts of the failed applicants and said, "These are like the bird's eggs you've pushed down. Because you outcompete them, they're now under your feet." This is the top-ranked Imperial College in India. Nearly 400,000 people apply each year, but only 200 can make it. The dean's son was rejected 3 times in a row, but he didn't dwell on it. Instead, he took out a space pen and introduced it to the freshmen. This is a great invention created by scientists at a cost of millions. It can write at any angle, any temperature, and even in zero gravity. 32 years ago, his teacher passed this symbol of excellence onto him. But in 32 years, he had never found a student as excellent as himself to take over the pen. At this moment, Rancho raised his hand and asked, "If the pen can't write in outer space, why don't astronauts use pencils? That way, we could save millions of dollars." The dean was left speechless by this sudden question. Unprepared, he awkwardly said, "We'll answer that later." In the first class, the teacher asked Rancho what a mechanical device was. He said it's something that can save human labor, like fans, phones, air conditioners, calculators, and even the zipper on pants.
एक सेकंड में अप, एक सेकंड में डाउन, अप डाउन, अप डाउन, अप।
This casual answer really angered the teacher.
अब मैं ये सब लिखोगे? ये मशीन है। अप डाउन, अप डाउन।
And a top student stood up and recited the definition of a mechanical device from the book word for word. Only then did the teacher show a satisfied smile. But Rancho disagreed. He thought it meant the same as what he said, but wasn't as easy to understand as his explanation. As students of a top school, they should learn to be flexible, not just bookworms who only memorize things. But the teacher said that to pass his mechanical course, they must strictly follow the textbook. Rancho wanted to argue more, but the teacher told him to get out of the classroom. However, halfway out, he suddenly turned back.
Yeah.
Instruments that record, analyze, summarize, organize, debate, and explain information that are illustrative, non-illustrative, hardbound, paperback, jacketed, non-jacketed, with forward introduction, table of contents, index that are intended for the enlightenment, understanding, enrichment, enhancement, and education of the human brain through sensory route or vision, sometimes touch.
अरे कहना क्या चाहते हो?
किताबें सर, बुक्स भूल गया सर।
तो सीधा सीधा नहीं कह सकते थे?
थोड़ी देर पहले कोशिश की थी सर, लेकिन आपको सीधा सीधा पसंद नहीं आया।
Almost all the teachers couldn't tolerate this unconventional free bird, but every time he was driven out of the classroom, he would slip into other classrooms. He was eager to learn any knowledge. Moreover, he was very passionate about mechanics and had strong hands-on abilities. On the first night of enrollment, he used the dormitory's light bulb and the wires on the wall to make a simple conductive device, letting the senior students who intended to play tricks on him witness the power of knowledge. That night, the senior students almost became senior sisters, and no one in the school dared to provoke him anymore. This outstanding creativity and hands-on ability were very similar to another senior student named Joy in the school. Joy had spent 4 years developing a drone model on his own. Now that it was finally completed, he asked the dean about the graduation ceremony time because his father wanted to book a train ticket to witness the coronation of the first engineer in the village. Joy used the dean's mobile phone to make the call, but when his father joyfully answered, the dean delivered a bolt from the blue to the father and son. He said, "Your good son won't graduate this year because he often submits homework late and is obsessed with unrealistic projects. The ridiculous drone hasn't even taken off yet." Joy begged the dean for more time because his father's stroke had prevented him from focusing on his studies for 2 months. However, this made the already sorrowful dean even angrier. "My son died on the train on Sunday, but I still came to school as usual on Monday. I haven't reached the point of not being able to eat. Why do you stop studying?" With that, he left, leaving Joy in a mess of grief. At this moment, Joy, in utter despair, threw away his worthless design. This scene happened to be witnessed by Rancho, who picked up Joy's senior semi-finished product. Out of kindness and his love for mechanics, he decided to make this unrealistic aspiration fly into reality. To this end, Rancho attended classes as usual during the day to absorb knowledge and spent his nights trying to find ways to make the drone take off. Fortunately, Joy's senior design was almost perfect, so completing the remaining steps was not a big problem for Rancho. A month later, the drone, which was not optimistic by many, finally took off successfully. But when everyone brought the surprise to Joy's window, they found only a cold body in the room. The dean's ruthlessness became the last straw that broke the camel's back. The words "I quit" were still on the wall. If Joy had given life a little more waiting in despair, perhaps he would have been greeted with a different warm ending. At Joy's funeral, Rancho said to the dean, the cause of Joy's death was excessive tracheal pressure, but his psychological pressure over the past 4 years was immeasurable. If one day engineers invent a machine to measure psychological pressure, then everyone will know that you, the dean, are the culprit of this suicide. The dean was angry that Rancho dared to blame him, but Rancho said he was just blaming the system. Here, new ideas and inventions are not valued. Students Students are only fixated on their immediate academic records and try every means to settle abroad. Teachers are also ineffective. They only teach students how to get high scores but never teach real engineering. The dean, furious, grabbed Rancho and said, "Since you know so much about education, you teach the students today." Without shirking, Rancho picked up a book, pretended to think for a moment, then wrote 2 words on the blackboard and asked everyone to give the definitions of the 2 words within 30 seconds, comparing who was the fastest and who was the slowest. With a start, everyone frantically flipped through their books. The dean, who didn't bring a book, even snatched his deskmate's textbook. But when the time was up, no one found the answers. At this moment, Rancho said, "Just now, everyone was caught up in a frantic competition. When the question was asked, there was no joy of gaining new knowledge, only increased pressure for nothing. Remember, this is a university for teaching and nurturing, not a pressure cooker that only adds pressure." However, the dean didn't want to listen to his nonsense anymore. He just wanted to know the meanings of the 2 words. But the 2 words had no meaning at all. They were made up by Rancho based on the names of his 2 roommates. Once again, Rancho embarrassed the dean in public.
Nonsense! कैसे पढ़ाओगे इंजीनियरिंग?
नहीं सर, मैं आपको इंजीनियरिंग नहीं पढ़ा रहा था सर, वो तो आप मुझसे बेहतर जानते हैं। मैं तो आपको ये पढ़ा रहा था कि पढ़ाते कैसे।
If you want to know what happens next, follow me. I will update the next part soon.